Here's what I was talking about when I was talking about feeding the wire through the control, or through the mounting bracket. As long as you insert that first in that little channel that you cut in there, it'll be fine. And obviously this isn't going to be long enough to get over here easily. If it's routed through this, it's still going to come up a little short. So depending on the servos you have, extensions are nice. There's several ways you can do this. You can put a connector on there, or you can save yourself the hassle of doing that by taking this plug off, enlarging those holes large enough for this wire to pass through, and solder these directly in there. And then basically all I do is I feed this through, solder them, and then pull it back till it locks. And then I put shrink tubing over it, and I've never had an issue. That just eliminates a weak link by adding a connection. Now, high-tech servos, they do have long leads, and I'd probably be safe on this one. But it just depends on how far you space your compartments and how it ends up running through there. Sometimes you have to use, there's no other option other than using an extension. And it looks like it's going to pass through fine. The other thing is this tunnel that I've got here. Now I can fish this all the way through, but if there's an issue, the other thing would be is how I typically finish my compartments. These are flat, and it just lays flat here like that. Now 5/16 is the thickness of 2 mil Coro, hook and loop. Now my hook and loop here is a mess. But if I was to take this, and this is Velcro brand, if I place that together and measure it, 2 mil Coro top and bottom, it comes out to about 5/16. You can go a little shallower than that if you want, but that's what I do, and you can double check, but I route this down 5/16 of an inch. And then I'll take a piece of Coroplast, and similar to how I do the lid here, I'll cut it on the back and glue it here and across there once it's down to the right depth. And then I can have just a straight tunnel through there, and a lot more open area to pass wires through. So that being said, just so I can go ahead and show you, biggest reason I do this, aside from being able to get your wires in here, is that the alternative is gluing the Velcro down, and a lot of times it pulls back up. I've yet to have an issue where using this method it releases from plastic. It's a lot smoother surface, and you just don't have that issue. What I've got here is too small of a piece. But I need to have a gap in the middle anyway, so it'll work just fine. Is this depth here, I can see where it is on the flute. Make my mark, and then you're only going to make a pass with the blade just deep enough to hinge it. And you'll have to do that in two places, because when you fold it back on itself, it's not like it is when you do a standard hinge. It wants to bind. I've got a little and you just basically trim it until it wants to come back. You can fold it virtually in half using a sharp blade. As long as you don't cut your hinge, you're okay. But you can remove material. And get it to fold back over. So just kind of trial and error on this just to get enough material out of the way. I get that. I'm going to measure this here. I'm going to cut this in half so I can spread it out and fill this in like I'm wanting to. But that'll give me a supporting ledge. Now that I have my tunnel here, I just take my blade and cut that down, and that's going to free up a lot more room. Now, I still have to get 2 servo leads through here, as well as motor wires. But one of the biggest things you can do is, if you allowed for it, you can make the area where your motor wires and servo and speed control wire pass through. You can enlarge the area enough to accommodate all that. As you can see, that's a pretty thin edge there. And it's not really going to hurt anything. But because I'm going to have both coming through, and you can use a straight edge, whatever you want, to make sure that's straight. It's perfectly fine. This is going to give me about 3/8 of an inch for my wires to pass through without any issues. Measure that. Using my square. You see, it's going to be a little bit of a gap here in the middle. But I'm actually going to trim this back so it goes all the way over towards the edge. I'm just trimming back to my hinge. Then I'll give you a nice finished battery pocket. And when you put your Velcro in there, and you always want to double check it just in case, but to see if your depth is correct, or if there's anything in the way. When you shut that, that should be flush. So don't rush and glue things into place until you have a chance to check and make sure everything's lined up properly. And I'll also be opening this up too here, just so I can pass everything through. And now I can easily get all my wires through here, over this way, and get my motor wires to come out there in the middle. So with this side already cut, I'm just double checking everything because there's still some foam in my way. The other alternative is just to route down deep enough to inset your Velcro, and then and so that the lid closes flat. And that'll save you a little extra work, but this will give you a nice finished compartment if you do it this way. And the ease of putting equipment in, taking it out if you need to. You apply it to that side first. Just give it a few and hold it in place. Okay, basically all I did on this, and you might be mindful of the amount of Velcro you put on here, because it's pretty hard to open sometimes. But you don't want your batteries to fall out on a minor impact either. What I do is kind of eyeball it, give myself just a little extra, and then once I have it where I want it, I can trim it to the size I need to fit this ledge here. And the first thing I do is the fuzzy side I put down first, and I allow about a 1/8 of an inch gap there back here. But you put that down first, just make sure it's on there good. You may want to clean it with alcohol, the plastic first with alcohol, just in case it's got dust on it. The other thing is this piece here, just easy, quick alignment, is just set it on there, just like that. Close your lid. And then it's exactly where it needs to be. I just make sure it's on there, and then I go press it into place. And that's it. Now I can, like I said, it's going to be a bear to open until it gets broke in a little bit, but you can easily cut your size down to what you need. Just so it's not so difficult to open. But like I said, minor impacts, you don't want your stuff to come flying out. But this tunnel definitely comes in handy, especially with that opening there. Like I said, I can fish that straight on through and have it in my pocket just like I need it. Like I said, this is a little short, so what I'm probably going to end up doing, just so I don't run into a problem, is put an extension on there and then call it a day. That way I just don't have an issue. Same thing with my speed control. My speed control is probably going to require additional wire length too. Another thing is depending on the power system, I've used this wire here. This is speaker wire. It's 14 gauge, or you can use you know, stuff that's specifically for the hobby. Now this is high current wire, but I've used this 14 gauge to 60 amps and it doesn't even get hot. But this is only to show you this process. Now these are obviously going to take an extra piece here of these, but essentially this is what I'm getting at. My motor wires are usually only about that long, just enough to probably get from here to there with the connectors on it. Rather than extending my speed control wires, I leave those the same length, and then I take wire, regardless of what size. I can fish that back into where my speed control is going to go. I'm having trouble fishing it through. Anyway, see, I'm getting 4 wires here. But essentially that's it. I solder these directly to my motor, put my connectors here, and they stay in with the speed control. And that's one of the other reasons I make it bigger here. If I have to pull my speed control out, I don't want to have to sit there and fool with these wires. If I tear up the motor, obviously I'm going to have to do that, but it's just to show you another option. I have plenty of room in here to do it the way that I do it, without any issues. Other than that, this thing's ready to be spackled.